Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's Clean Bus Chats presented by Chispa, LCV voters, and California League of Conservation voters. We are so excited to be here. I just want to make sure that everyone knows that this is live, being streamed on Zoom and on Facebook, and that this is being recorded for future use. Thank you so much for coming. So we're so excited today to talk about electric buses and the Clean Commute for Kids Act. And so it's going to be an exciting show today. We are joined by really special guests, the LCV Government Affairs Advocate, Darien Davis, and also a community organizer. Her name is Sybil Azur, and also the amazing Congressman Tony Cárdenas, who is the sponsor of the Clean Commute for Kids Act in Congress. We're going to cover all of these the scope of this bill, how it's going to help not only our air and air quality and for our kids growing up, but also help us to meet our climate goals. We're going to answer some of the audience questions that are available for you guys today. And we're going to talk about ways that you can get involved and make an impact to make sure that this legislation passes in Congress and we have a brighter tomorrow. So without further ado, I would like to open up the floor and invite Representative Tony Cárdenas to give us opening remarks.
Thank you very much, Erin, and really appreciate this opportunity to come together with all of you in this live event. This is kind of new to some of us doing these events, but this is beautiful. There's a saying in Spanish, from everything bad, something good comes of it. And this pandemic is about as bad as things get, but I pray for everyone, and hopefully everybody is safe and people are taking advantage of the opportunity to get vaccinated. But one thing that came out of this is us to realize that we can come together, that we can communicate, and that we can continue to do good things, even though we are kind of strapped into our little bubble because of a pandemic. But speaking of pandemics, when it comes to the environment, we have a lot going on in this world, and we need to make sure that we do better as human beings. And there's no question, even though there are many people elected to office, especially Congress, who claim that human beings are not having a negative effect on the environment, and there's really nothing that we should do about it. Well, that is just not true. And I think everybody on this call understands that very much. But one thing that I'd like to point out before I go into the Clean Commute for Kids Act, which is introduced by Senator Padilla in the Senate and myself in the House of Representatives. And it comes with a low price tag. I say low price tag of $25 billion with a B, because that's the amount of money that we need to actually get this going so that we can make sure that over 500,000 dirty diesel school buses actually get cleaned up by replacing them with electric school buses, which is something that we can achieve, and we shall do it together. I'd like to point out that Alex Padilla is the son of immigrants. He grew up a couple blocks away from me, and we both grew up in Pacoima, California, where there are a lot of dump sites and a lot of environmental injustice. And he's been elected for over 20 years, and I'm going on 25 years. And it's very emotional for me to introduce a bill in the House of Representatives, along with my friend and colleague from Pacoima as well, Alex Padilla, who is now our US Senator in California. And for us to fight for this bill and to make sure that we get it through the process and work through both the House of Representatives and the United States Senate, but also making sure that the administration actually does its part and supports this bill. President Biden and his administration have already indicated that they want to see this bill become law. Right now, we have a process in negotiating with Republicans and Democrats, and unfortunately, in my opinion, this is going forward. But the $25 billion, they're trying to reduce it down to $7.5 billion. I've already talked to Senator Padilla about it and already let him know. And we quickly both told each other, no way, no how. We're not going to let that happen. We are going to continue to fight to make sure that this bill is as big as possible, because we need to save the planet and we need to do it as quickly as possible. And also it's important to understand that when it comes to children and seniors, they're the ones who are immediately susceptible to bad health effects because of the environment. And for us to be in full conscience to see millions of kids every single day get on school buses that are spewing out this diesel particulate matter into those young lungs is just unconscionable. and we can do something about it, and we have to do something about it. This is just one piece of the puzzle that we need to do together, ladies and gentlemen. We need to do this together, folks, to make sure that we continue to march forward and clean up our act, literally clean up our act, clean up the environment, and prove to the world that we can do better, not only for today, but for tomorrow. So it's my honor and my pleasure to make sure that we give those 25 children who get on school buses every single day across America, we give them an opportunity to breathe that clean air. Just a little anecdote, when Aaron and I were together over there and announcing this bill at one of the biggest school districts in the country in Los Angeles, one of the school bus drivers told us something, a little anecdote. He said, you know what? When I have to put my electric bus in for servicing, immediately the kids are complaining because they can't hear each other when they're talking. Think about that, ladies and gentlemen, the noise that these kids have to go through every single day. And when they get on a clean electric bus, they can actually talk to each other. They can actually do things together. They can actually enjoy the ride. Whereas this dangerous ride that they have to take, 25 million kids every single day have to take this dangerous ride, this noisy ride on these diesel school buses all across America. So again, there are many, many beautiful things that are going to happen with the Clean Commute for Kids Act. It's really important that we work together. Please, ladies and gentlemen, please, people, spread the word to everybody you know, to go ahead and call your Congress member, call your senator, make sure that we sign petitions, et cetera, to remind people how important this is, that we clean up our act in America, and that we show the world that we are leaders when it comes to cleaning up the environment, that we are leaders when it comes to making sure that, yes, we take care of our children and we care about them and we're willing to do the right thing for them as well. So it's really important that we all understand that if and when we stand together, we are gonna have wonderful results. So with that, I look forward to the question and answers, and back to you, Erin.
Thank you so much, Representative Cárdenas. And then this is so important because, like what Representative Cárdenas said, is that there are over 25 million kids across America who are facing this every day, which then increases their chances of developing asthma, cancer, and all sorts of different respiratory and heart conditions over the long term. This is not only an investment for our climate goals, but an investment in our future. And so I'm very excited to bring to the stage our two other panelists that we're going to start the question and answer with. And that is our LCV Government Affairs Advocate, Darien Davis. And hello, Darien. And also a mother and community organizer, Sybil Azur. We're so excited to have both of you guys here today on our question. Hey, Sybil, how are you? All right, so we're going to do the first question. And I'm going to open it up, ask the question, and then we'll let the congressman answer first, and then you guys can follow up. All right, the first question is, why does transitioning to clean school buses matter to you personally, and how did you get involved in advocating for it?
Again, thank you for the question. And it matters to me personally because children expect and need adults to make decisions that affect them. Children are children. They're not given opportunities to sit at the table in legislatures and city councils, et cetera. So us adults, we have a responsibility to make sure that not only do we speak for them, but we act in their interests. So to me, with 25 million children who don't have a choice as to what kind of school bus they're on, I think it's up to us to make sure that we clean up our act and we provide them with a clean environment, and that we don't subject them, like you mentioned, Aaron, to the possibility of getting asthma or possibly cancer from the particulate matter from this diesel engines that they have to be subjected to 100, 200 times a year. So I think it's really important that we understand that what motivates me is just making sure that I do my job, that I do the job for the people who don't have a voice, and that is our children. Thank you, Aaron.
Thank you. And then I'd like to offer the same question to Darien. Go for it.
Awesome, thank you. So I grew up riding dirty diesel buses to school, and until a few years ago, really until I started doing this work at Chispa and LCV, I was completely unaware of the toxins that I was breathing in. Low wealth and BIPOC families are not only exposed to this toxic exhaust from these buses, but they disproportionately experience the impacts of climate change and pollution just based on their zip code. So clean buses is a racial justice issue Communities of people who look like me are facing harmful health impacts from an essential part of their lives, just sending their kids to school each day. So I'm really excited about pollution-free buses because they're a really practical solution to this problem. They help to eliminate harmful tailpipe emissions while creating good paying jobs and powering our electric grid. Right now, the transportation sector is the leading source of carbon pollution, and we have no time to waste. We need to convert at least half of the school bus fleet in the next decade in order to meet our climate goals.
And what's really exciting about this bill is that it actually helps us meet that target. When we were talking about this in Los Angeles, Los Angeles Unified School District is trying to invest in electric buses, but because of the funding, it's going to be a very slow process that will take over 20 to 30 years. If we're able to pass this bill, this will be done in the next less than 10 years. And that means that there are kids who are going to school now that will have their whole rest of their academic careers in electric buses, because it's going to be able to make this happen so much quicker. So we're really, really excited about this bill and making sure that it gets passed. And we're going to need public and community support, which actually brings up Sybil Azur. You work with the Climate Reality in Los Angeles. Tell us about how you got involved in this fight.
Let's see here. So as a grassroots organization, it's all about volunteer activities, right? So when people ask me what they can do to get involved, I always tell them to start where they are. And because I have 2 young children, where I am is the schoolyard. And as the 2nd largest school district in the country and the largest energy consumer in the city of LA, Los Angeles Unified School District was our target. So we decided to get them to get them to commit to 100% clean renewable energy. So as we were crafting the resolution, we also decided to include getting them to transition to clean school buses by 2040 and all other energy uses by 2040 as well. So we knew that it would have huge ripple effects across the country. And especially as a mother to a son that has asthma, it's a huge deal because LA Unified has, I think, around 1,100 school buses, and for them to commit to electrifying their fleet is a huge deal. And as a mother, it's my greatest responsibility to leave my children a livable planet. So yes, the funding will be an uphill battle. So this bill will be huge in helping them achieve their goal. I also mentor for the Manhattan Beach Unified School District and Long Beach Unified School District should try to do the same thing. So knowing that there will possibly be funding for these buses is huge, huge. It takes a huge excuse off the table.
And I think that brings up our next question. And I'm going to start with you and go in reverse. But what are some of the roadblocks that we're seeing towards getting this funded in that the schools are facing in transitioning? What are some of the roadblocks that you're seeing on the ground?
If you want, I'll go ahead and start.
That sounds great. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you. Well, I've been a legislator for 25 years, and obviously there's good and bad of it. Some people think, well, you shouldn't be there too long or what have you. But I did 6 years in the state assembly, and at the state legislative level, you find out really quickly that local school districts depend on state funding, especially here in California. So when the school districts are making excuses, we can tell them, okay, we're going to put our money where your mouth is. And so therefore, if that truly is your priority, now there's no excuse. Here's the money. And that's what Senator Padilla and I are trying to do with the this electric school bus bill, is to make sure that we get rid of the excuses so that they start acting now. Another thing as well, I was on the city council, and that's where state and federal funds go to that's called the local community, where school district or a city council or what have you. And we never have enough funds at the local level to do all the wonderful things we have to do for our constituents. So again, I've realized over my career that whenever I'm in an opportunity to help put money where somebody else's mouth is, where they say, this is my priority, and if I had the money, I would do it. Well, now this is what this bill is going to do. It's going to, I don't want to say force, it's going to call them to the table and say, if this is truly your priority, and if you're listening to mothers like Sybil, and you're telling people like Sybil, we would if we could, well, here you go. Here it is. You can now. Are you going to do it?
Yes, thank you. And while we're super excited that our partners in California, like the LA Unified School District, have begun this process right now in LAUSD, they have 1,300 buses, and that's about only 10% of them being diesel fueled. They've started that. This is going to give a national push. So not just in Los Angeles, not just in California, but around the United States, to make sure that kids, especially in these impacted communities, are able to have clean rides to school and not have to face these issues. Darien, what are some of the other issues that we're seeing that are blocking this from getting accomplished?
Yes, so I think like Sybil mentioned before, funding is one of the biggest obstacles to making the switch to pollution-free buses. So Chispa has actually been working to allocate settlement funding from the Volkswagen settlement that happened a few years ago to purchase zero-emission buses in states across the country. But like the congressman said, in order to do this on a big enough scale to make sure that all children can safely ride the bus to school, the federal government needs to step in. And it needs to step in with an investment of $25 billion over the next decade or so. And so, like was mentioned before, the Biden administration is on board with this in terms of the Build Back Better commitment, and the Clean Commute for Kids Act would help us meet this goal. And this would cover everything from purchasing buses and training drivers to the operation and maintenance of vehicles. A huge barrier in terms of cost is sort of the vehicle to grid element. So again, vehicle to grid technology can really help to pay for the cost of converting buses over time. So essentially these school buses could be powering our electric grid while they're parked and sitting over the summer when school is out of session. So there's a huge opportunity with this initial investment in clean energy technology like buses to make an investment in our electrical grid over time.
Excellent. And Sybil, did you want to add anything about barriers, or did you want to go to the next question?
I would just quickly like to add, when we first talked about this, the district mentioned that there were range issues, right? So we have a huge district covering a lot of square miles. However, the technology is improving on a daily basis. So buses will be able to travel longer and for for longer periods of time. So we expect that it's going to continue to improve, and we don't see that as an obstacle. So it shouldn't, I say that to say it shouldn't be an obstacle for other people looking to do this in other parts of the state and the country.
And there are some buses that actually have a range of about 155 miles, which is several trips in a day, even for a city as big as Los Angeles. So the technology is there, and now we need the funding and for Congress to act. And so we're thankful to have leaders like Representative Cárdenas and our Senator Alex Padilla. So here's my next question, and I want to start with the Congressman again, is what are things that people can do to get involved in making clean, healthy school buses a reality for every kid in America? What can people do?
Talk to your neighbors, talk to your friends, let them know that this can be a reality. And I think 9 times out of 10, people would nod their head and say, you're right. And then what do I do about it? Well, let your school board member know, right? Remind people like me and Alex Padilla that you're behind this bill. And one of the things that we need to remember is this. A lot of times people think, well, the only people pushing for cleaning up the environment when it comes to legislation are Democrats and not Republicans. I'm very happy to say that there's a small handful of Republicans that are now starting to realize that this is real and it's affecting their children and their grandchildren, and it's actually affecting their local economies as well. And they're now starting to come around and realize that maybe doing the right thing by the environment is good. So don't give up on talking to Republican elected officials. I think it's important that they hear from everyone and that they understand that this helps their constituents as well, because poor kids in rural America, they ride school buses every day as well. And most of my Republican colleagues, it's just the way the cookie crumbles, most of my Republican colleagues tend to represent more rural parts of the United States, which means that they are going to benefit, their communities are going to benefit from this as much, if not more. And the children in their communities that are the sons and daughters of their voters and their constituents are going to benefit from this as well. So I think that, and the last thing I'm going to say is on this issue right now, the way it stands today, I think it's important that we just, kill them with kindness. Just remind them, ask them questions like, does the member have children or grandchildren or what have you? Just ask simple questions like that and tell them, well, that's who I'm fighting for, right? Everybody on this call is fighting for every child in America. We're actually fighting for the world when you talk about cleaning up our environment. But what I'm saying is we're fighting for every child in America. And my colleagues on the other side of the aisle, the Republicans, they have children, they have grandchildren as well. So if they're not looking at it from an environmental vantage point in the bigger picture, like CLCV does and LCV and Chispa, they should look at it from the vantage point of their constituents. If they want to be convenient and look at it from their constituent, their district, there's plenty of arguments that we can make. But let's just kill them with kindness and just give them the facts, and then hopefully they come around.
We love it. Darien, what are some things that folks can do to make sure that this becomes reality?
Awesome. So I'm going to reiterate the congressman there. Call your member of Congress. They need to hear from you that making the switch from dirty diesel to pollution-free vehicles is a top priority. Like he mentioned before, this is an issue that touches all communities across the country. Currently, there are only about 9 senators and 16 representatives co-sponsoring Clean Commute for Kids Act. So this is an awesome bill, and we need to get this number up to drum up the support that we need for clean school buses.
Excellent. And I want to really highlight, since we know that there are 16 representatives and 9 senators, that means that it's very likely that your member of Congress has not signed on yet. So please give them a call and let them know that this is a priority issue. Please make sure that you talk to your friends and neighbors and let them know, and folks who are on the school board and a part of the PTA, let them know this is an issue. And also consider writing a letter to the editor on why clean school buses for kids is important for your community. Sybil, any last thoughts on what folks can do to get involved like you?
Of course, echoing what everyone else said about school board members, local, state, and federal representatives reaching out, but talking to your community, and if it's within your realm of possibility, modeling the behavior. I drive an electric minivan. And so if it's within your reach, I highly suggest, people will see me driving down the street and hear the hum of the electric car and ask me about it. So it's very important that we as consumers send a signal to the marketplace that we support the auto industry moving in the direction of electrifying our fleets of cars. So wherever you can do that, do it.
Our president always says, show me your budget and I'll show you your values. So it's great to see that your values align.
Aaron, if you don't mind, Aaron, I'd like to add a couple of things.
Yeah.
I look something because I think everybody on the panel understands what I'm about to say. When it comes to asking your local city councils or your local school boards to pass a resolution supporting the Clean Commute for Kids Act, right? Everybody on this panel knows that we can ask them to do that. And the resolution isn't a law, but the resolution puts it on the record that that school district welcomes the passage of this law. And then when I and Senator Padilla are actually having this bill go through committee or through the floor, we can say we have, not tens of, not hundreds of, we can actually say we have thousands of cities and school boards and school districts that have actually endorsed the bill. That's very, very powerful. So going to them and asking them if they could please pass a resolution. And look, it's real simple. The city council members, for example, in every community, they represent those same children. The school boards represent them as well. But I have never heard of a school board in America that doesn't welcome more funds to do the right thing. So I think it's something that we can do is to go ahead and ask them if they will consider passing a resolution. And somebody on that city council, somebody on that school board is going to take it upon themselves to grab that resolution, sponsor it, get their other colleagues to vote for it. And in many cases on this one, I think we're going to get unanimous support by them on these resolutions as well. So please understand that there's a lot that we can do to create that momentum.
I'm very aware of time, so I want to do rapid fire questions. Representative Cárdenas, in the Clean Commute for Kids Act, which communities qualify for electric school buses?
First of all communities will qualify at the end of the day, but like Darien said, it's going to take maybe 5, 8, 10 years for us to get to 500,000 school buses. So the thing is, there's a priority in the bill that actually says low-income communities, communities that have been subjected to environmental injustice, et cetera, those communities will be prioritized. So that's something that Senator Padilla and myself are very, very sensitive to. We grew up in Pacoima, where there are more dump sites in the Northeast San Fernando Valley where we grew up than any other place in LA County. And LA County has 10 million people. So you can imagine how concentrated our community has been with this environmental injustice. So we're very sensitive to that.
Excellent. And then a question from Tricia. We'll see if we can get this last one in. Will we see funding for the electric school buses included in the bipartisan infrastructure package, or is this in the reconciliation bill? How does this work?
Right now, the bill on its own is a standalone bill of $25 billion. But the little secret in all legislative bodies is this: if you can get a standalone bill all the way to the finish line, that's the toughest way to do it. And it happens. But the thing is, if you can get the bill incorporated into a bigger bill where more people are fighting for it, more people are negotiating, that's where the bipartisan infrastructure bill is at right now. And that's where $7.5 billion is in the bill that has this language of our bill in it. So Senator Padilla and I welcome, the larger community of the senators and members of Congress to put this in a bigger, quote, package. But at the same time, we want to up the dollar amount. We do not want it to be $7.5 billion.
Excellent. Thank you so much. And so with that, I wanted to just give our closing statements from everyone. Thank you so much for watching. Let's start with the representative. What are some last thoughts you want to leave us with before we go?
Well, look, it warms my heart to see the panel as it is today. I'm just going to be honest with you. When I met with CLCV, when I ran for office 26 years ago for the first time in my life, I was looking at a bunch of people, wonderful people at CLCV, and not one person of color. And boy, things have changed. We all love our communities. We all care about the environment. We all want to be part of the good team to get things done. But it's wonderful to see the representation that we have here today of people of every community coming together to fight for what's right, to make sure that we get the right thing done, and we turn this climate issue around as soon as possible. So again, thank you to Chispa, LCV. Appreciate it very, very much. And to Sybil and Darien and Aaron, it's been a pleasure working with you. And when I say working, we're going to be working together a lot. So look forward to working with you more and more every day. Thank you.
Thank you so much for being a consistent champion for our communities and for our climate. We couldn't do this without you. It's amazing. All right, we're going to give it to Darien. Darien, any last thoughts?
Awesome. Yes, I think my final thought, and the Congressman touched on this earlier, but electric school buses, pollution-free school buses, are a bipartisan issue. This is something that everyone can get behind. Everyone has children who attend school, who ride the bus to school. So we really need to speak out if we believe in and support this issue. Again, if we want to see the government tackle climate change and pollution reduction in communities across the country, we need to speak up and advocate and say something about it. So Brittany dropped a link to Chispa's petition in the chat. So if you go to that link, you can sign our petition to reach out to your member of Congress and ask them to support funding to make the switch.
Thank you so much. And Sybil, as a community organizer, you are the lifeblood of these kinds of movements. So I would love to hear some of your final thoughts before we close out the show.
Of course. This has been fantastic. I'm so heartened by this bill, and thank you so much, Congressman. This is a huge, huge deal. I just want to say drought, wildfire, bigger hurricanes, sea level rise, the effects of climate change have become impossible to ignore, and they're just going to get worse. Our children need us to act now. I didn't have children so they could clean up our mess. So let's do what should have been done decades ago and get involved. Find a local organization near you. There's no reason to work in silos. There are so many amazing organizations across the country, across the globe, doing this great work already. Just, type in climate change organization, how can I help? And I assure you that you'll find somebody with that mandate, and just get involved. Get involved. The time is now. The clock is ticking. We need you now.
Excellent. And I do want to reiterate that this is a result of people who are just like you, who are watching right now, coming together and asking their elected officials to stand up and champion for their children, for our future. We cannot do this without you. The American Jobs Plan, or whether it's this bill or any sort of climate action, depends on folks like you getting civically involved and taking action, getting your friends, family members to take the action needed to get our leaders to, pass these laws and make these investments. We can't do without you, so please make sure to sign our petition, to like and follow Representative Cárdenas, LCV, and CLCV, and Chispa, and then also share this video. This is a great way for folks to get informed and get involved, and we can't do without you. So thank you so much. I hope you guys all have a great day. Let's go save the world. See you later.
Thank you. Good job. Thank you, Erin.
Bye, everyone.
Take care,
Thank
Darien.
you.
Sybil.
One person can make a difference.
We'll see ya.